My name is Emily Carter, and for 8 years of my life, I answered to rank instead of comfort, orders instead of emotions, and duty instead of desire. I am a soldier, or at least I was. By the time this story begins, my service had officially ended, and for the first time in nearly a decade, I was packing my bags without a return date. No deployment schedule, no base address, just a one-way ticket home for Christmas. People think soldiers get used to being away from family. The truth is, you don't. You just learn how to hide it better. Every Christmas I spent overseas, I told myself the same lie: next year will be different. But next year never was. Until this one. Christmas had always meant home to me. Not the gifts or the decorations, but the feeling of belonging somewhere without having to explain myself. My mother understood that. She used to say that no matter how far I went, there would always be a place at the table waiting for me. When she passed away during my second year of service, that promise felt like it disappeared with her. After Mom died, my father and I changed. We didn't fight. We didn't argue. We simply faded. Our phone calls became shorter. His voice became quieter. Sometimes months passed without hearing from him. I told myself he was grieving in his own way, just like I was. But deep down, I always wondered if my absence made it easier for him to forget I existed. Still, when my contract ended, he was the first person I thought of. I remember sitting on my bunk late at night, scrolling through flight options, my finger hovering over the confirm button. I hadn't been home in years. I didn't know what I would find there: an empty house, an older father, or a place that no longer felt like mine. But I knew one thing for sure: if I didn't go now, I never would. So I booked the ticket. December 22nd. Arrival. 3 days before Christmas. I imagined my father opening the door, pretending not to be emotional, maybe giving me that awkward half-smile he always did. I imagined sitting in the living room where my mother used to put up the tree, drinking coffee that was always too strong. I imagined silence that felt peaceful instead of painful. For the first time in years, I felt something close to excitement. 3 days before my flight, I was folding my civilian clothes I hadn't worn in years, when my phone vibrated. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the name on the screen.
Dad. My heart jumped.
He rarely texted first. I smiled before even opening the message, already rehearsing my reply in my head. Maybe he was asking about my arrival time. Maybe he was finally saying he was proud of me. I opened the message, and everything inside me went cold. Emily, maybe it's better if you don't come home this Christmas. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A joke that didn't land. I read it again, then again. Each time, the words stayed exactly the same. My hands started to shake, not from fear, but from confusion so sharp it felt physical. I stared at the screen, waiting for another message to appear. One explaining, one apologizing, one taking it back. Nothing came. That was the moment I realized something was wrong, deeply wrong, and whatever was waiting for me at home wasn't the Christmas I had imagined. And yet, even then, a part of me knew I was going home anyway. The days before my flight felt heavy. Every hour moved slowly. My father's message stayed in my mind like a shadow. Maybe it's better if you don't come home this Christmas. I kept reading those words again and again. I tried to understand them, but nothing made sense. My father was not the kind of man who spoke without reason. If he said something like that, it meant he was hiding something. I called him. No answer. I left a voice message. I told him I was worried. I told him I just wanted to talk. Asked him to please call me back. He didn't. That silence hurt more than the message itself. During my years in the military, I learned how to wait. I waited for orders. I waited for missions. I waited for letters and calls that sometimes never came. But this kind of waiting was different. This was personal. This was my family.
I started thinking about the past.
When I first joined the military, my father didn't try to stop me. He simply nodded and said, "Be careful." That was how he showed love. He never used big words. He never shared his feelings easily. After my mother died, he became even quieter. Sometimes, when we talked on the phone, there were long pauses. I used to fill those pauses with stories about my job. He listened, but he didn't say much. I thought maybe he didn't care. Now I understood something else. Maybe he cared too much. The night before my flight, I sat on my bed with my suitcase open. Everything was packed. My uniform was folded neatly. My civilian clothes were on top. I looked at the ticket on my phone. I had a choice. I could cancel the flight. I could stay where I was and pretend none of this mattered. That would have been the easy option. But I didn't join the military because I was afraid of hard things. I stood up and zipped my bag closed. Whatever my father was hiding, I needed to face it. I didn't want answers through messages anymore. I wanted to look him in the eyes. I wanted the truth. The next morning, I went to the airport. As I waited at the gate, families around me hugged and laughed. Children talked about Christmas presents. Parents carried bags filled with gifts. I sat quietly, watching, feeling both hopeful and afraid. When the plane took off, I closed my eyes. I remembered my mother's voice. Home will always be there for you. I hoped she was right. The flight felt long. I barely slept. My thoughts kept racing. What had changed? Why didn't my father want me there?
Was he sick?
Was something wrong with the house? Or had I already lost my place in his life? When the plane landed, cold air filled the cabin as the doors opened. My heart beat faster with every step I took through the airport. I picked up my bag and walked outside. Snow covered the streets. Christmas lights shone softly everywhere. The town looked exactly like I remembered it, and yet it felt unfamiliar. I took a taxi to my father's house. As we turned onto his street, my stomach tightened. The house came into view. The lights were on. There was another car in the driveway. I paid the driver and stood there for a moment, staring at the front door. This was the place I grew up, the place I left, the place I thought I was returning to. I took a deep breath. Then I knocked. The door opened slowly. My father stood there, older than I remembered. His eyes widened when he saw me. He didn't smile. He didn't hug me. "You shouldn't have come," he said quietly. His words hit me harder than any battlefield ever had. I stepped inside anyway, my heart racing. The living room looked the same. The Christmas tree stood tall in the corner, ornaments reflecting soft lights. But there was someone else. A woman I didn't know was standing near the fireplace, holding a mug with both hands. She looked nervous, unsure. My father avoided my eyes and closed the door behind me carefully. My chest tightened. Something was off. I felt like I had stepped into a life that had moved on without me. I tried to speak. "Dad." He shook his head. "Not yet, Emily. Not yet." He gestured toward the couch and we sat down. Silence filled the room. The warmth I had imagined was missing. The air felt heavy. I looked at the woman again. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. I realized she wasn't just a visitor. She was part of the house now. For a moment, I thought about turning around and leaving, but I couldn't. I had come this far. Whatever secrets my father was keeping, I had to face them. I took a deep breath and asked, "Who is she?" My father didn't answer immediately. He stared at the floor, hands clasped tightly. Then he finally spoke. "She helped me through some difficult years. She's someone I trust." I nodded slowly, trying to process it. But the words I wanted were not there yet. I needed the truth. I had waited 8 years to come home. I needed to know why my father had sent that message. Why he told me not to come. The woman was part of the story. I could feel it, but not the whole story. He leaned back in his chair, taking another long pause. Finally, his voice broke the silence. "Emily, there's something I should have told you a long time ago. I didn't want to hurt you, but I also didn't know how to say it. You have a younger sister." The words hit me like a punch. My mind froze. A sister? I had never heard of her. My father had never mentioned her before. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. I blinked, trying to take it all in. 12 years old, he said. A child I didn't know. A life my father had hidden from me. I looked around. She was there, standing quietly in the hallway, watching me. Her eyes were wide, curious, cautious. I didn't know what to say. I knelt down instinctively, looking at her. "Hi," I'm Emily. I'm your sister." She blinked, then slowly smiled. She stepped forward, and before I knew it, she hugged me. My chest tightened. My father's eyes filled with tears. He had kept this secret to protect everyone, but the weight of it had finally broken him. For the first time, I understood why he had sent that message. He wasn't trying to push me away. He was scared. Scared of my reaction. Scared of losing control. Scared that after all these years, I wouldn't understand. But I did. I understood more than he realized. I had lived in fear and distance for 8 years, and now I was here, ready to face everything. That night, we talked. My father explained everything. Why he had kept her a secret, how hard it had been after my mother died, how lonely he had been, and how much he had missed me. The woman was not just a friend. She was a support, someone who had helped him survive the worst years of his life. And my sister, she had grown up in this house, waiting for the day her big sister might come home. By the time the night ended, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. A sense of belonging, a connection. The warmth of home wasn't in the lights or the decorations. It was in the family I had been too long away from. I realized that Christmas wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about gifts or decorations. It was about the people you love, the truths you face, and the courage it takes to come home. The next morning, I woke up early. The house was quiet except for soft Christmas music from the speaker in the living room. My sister was already up, sitting by the tree, carefully unwrapping the few ornaments she had arranged. She looked so small and fragile, but there was something brave in her eyes. I smiled at her. She looked up, surprised, then returned the smile slowly. I knelt beside her. "I'm Emily," I said softly. "I'm your sister. I've been waiting a long time to meet you." Her eyes widened. She didn't speak at first, just stared, as if trying to decide whether to trust me. Then she reached out and held my hand. That small gesture broke the last walls of fear and distance I had built around myself. I felt a lump in my throat and nodded at her. "It's okay. We have time. We'll figure this out together." Later, my father joined us. He looked nervous, his hands trembling slightly. He had kept so many secrets for so long. I could see the weight of regret in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Emily," he said quietly. "I should have told you sooner. I wanted to protect everyone, but I see now that I was only protecting myself." I shook my head.
No, Dad. You did what you thought was best.
But now I'm here, and we can fix this together. The woman from the night before, who had helped him through those lonely years, brought us coffee and sat quietly, watching. I realized then that she had become a part of this family in a way I had never expected. I didn't feel threatened or replaced. I felt grateful that she had helped him stay strong long enough for me to come home. Throughout the day, my sister and I talked. She told me about school, her friends, and the little things she had missed in her life. I shared my experiences in the military, the places I had been, and how much I had missed home. She listened with wide eyes, fascinated by my stories. I listened to her, amazed at how much I had missed in her life. Every moment felt new, precious, and real. My father joined in, slowly opening up. He told us about the hardest years, the quiet nights when he missed my mother, and the weight of raising a child alone while trying to maintain his life. He admitted that he had been scared of my reaction, afraid I would blame him for keeping my sister a secret. I reached out and held his hand. "Dad," I said, "I don't blame you. We all did what we had to do to survive. What matters is that we are here now." By the evening, the house felt alive again. Laughter filled the rooms. My sister played games with me, and even my father smiled genuinely. The warmth I had been hoping for was finally here. Not in gifts or lights, but in the honest connection between us. For the first time in years, I felt that I truly belonged. That night, as I went to bed, I reflected on everything. The message that had shaken me, the fear I had felt, the secrets that had been hidden. All of it led to this moment. Coming home wasn't just about returning to a house. It was about facing truths, embracing my family, and building bonds that could survive years of distance and pain. I realized something important. Sometimes, the hardest battles aren't on the battlefield. They are at home, in the heart, in the moments when you must forgive, trust, and love despite fear. This Christmas was not perfect, but it was real. And for me, that was enough. Christmas morning arrived slowly. The sunlight spilled through the windows, reflecting off the ornaments on the tree. For the first time in years, I woke up without anxiety or fear. Instead, there was warmth, the kind that fills your chest and makes you feel safe. My sister was already up, humming a little tune she had learned at school. I smiled, feeling a connection I had thought I would never have. I joined her by the tree. "Good morning," I said softly. She looked at me with sleepy eyes and a shy smile. "Good morning, Emily," she replied. Her voice was quiet but confident, and in that moment, I knew she was beginning to trust me, to accept me as her sister. I pulled her into a gentle hug. She held on tightly, and I felt her tiny heartbeat against mine. All the years apart, all the distance, melted in that simple embrace. My father came down the stairs. He looked tired but peaceful. His eyes met mine, and I saw the mix of relief, pride, and lingering guilt. "Merry Christmas," he said, his voice soft. I smiled. "Merry Christmas, Dad," I said. I realized then that this Christmas was not about gifts or decorations. It was about forgiveness, understanding, and presence. It was about being together after years of separation, fear, and hidden truths. We spent the morning together. I helped my sister open small presents. She laughed at every little thing, and I laughed with her, feeling the joy and innocence I had missed in all those years. My father joined in, telling stories from when I was a child. Sometimes we paused, tears forming in our eyes, remembering my mother and the moments that we had lost. But those tears were not just sadness. They were healing. They were acknowledgement that even after years of absence, love could still grow stronger. By noon, the house felt alive with the sounds of family. The warmth was no longer just in the fire or the Christmas lights. It was in the laughter, in the hugs, in the quiet moments where no one had to explain themselves. I realized something powerful. Home isn't a place frozen in time. Home is where your heart is welcomed, where love survives distance, silence, and fear. That Christmas, I finally understood what it truly meant to come home. I had survived years away, faced danger and uncertainty, but none of that compared to the courage it took to walk through that door and face the truths I had been afraid to confront. My sister, my father, and I began to rebuild what had been broken. The message that once felt like rejection was now a doorway to honesty, trust, and healing. As I sat with my sister in my arms and my father nearby, I promised myself I would never take these moments for granted. I had fought battles abroad, but the battles at home, the ones of patience, forgiveness, and love, were the ones that truly mattered. And this Christmas, after years of longing and distance, I had finally come home. The snow outside fell quietly, blanketing the town in white, but inside the house, the warmth, laughter, and love were brighter than any light or decoration. I smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning. We had been apart for too long, but now we had each other.
And that was enough.